Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are back with another recording of Gone Home Developer Commentary Edition. Let us continue. So, we have been through quite a few rooms, and we've only picked up 2 journals. It's kind of a shame that the developer commentary can't be re-listened to through the journals. It would have been nice if they had just made a third tab in the menu system for developer commentary. We've also been to, I would say, maybe half of the house at this point. Not feeling scared or anything, though, because we know nothing scary happens. What would really just have me flip out is if, having run through the entire game and knowing nothing scary happens, something scary happened, like a ghost appeared or a jump scare. Just like one jump scare would flip me out. I'd be like, oh wow, they really got me. They made a game where you could run through the entire main game without any jump scares, but if you turned on the developer commentary and played it a second time, that's when they get you. That would that would be definitely a long con.
A lot of Gone Home is about pointless interactivity that is sort of things being interactive for the sake of them being interactive.
That's
But
definitely true.
it really comes from our inspirations of immersive sims like System Shock and Bioshock and Thief, where um, a big part of the design philosophy behind those games and Gone Home is that the world needs to be really internally consistent. And there's this feeling that if there's something that your character might do, you should be able to do it in the game. So in Bioshock, for instance, you can flush all the toilets and you can turn on all of the faucets, and that's also true in like Deus Ex and Dishonored. Like, and sometimes like the water fountains in Deus Ex give you like 1 health or whatever, but really you can interact with them because there's this expectation of if you could interact with that, if you encountered it in this world, we should let you do that, right? So all of the faucets in our game can be turned on, and they can be turned on so that you can turn them on, and you can flush all the toilets, and it extends into our philosophy behind you can pick up every plastic cup and toothbrush and Kleenex box, not because it's going to add a whole lot to your understanding of this world to be able to look at the underside of a cup, but to pay off that expectation and say to the player, yeah, you could pick that up and look at it, so we're going to let you do that. And it's going to be consistent interactively with the stuff that is important. And that makes it your job to look at everything and give it your attention, and for you to decide and understand and figure out what has significance and what doesn't, and not for us to tell that to you.
Yep. I'm noticing here that she didn't take her toothbrush or her toothpaste, unless that is somebody else's toothbrush and toothpaste or hairbrush, or heck, she didn't even take the tampons. Sam didn't really take any toiletries with her when she left. So the problem with pointless interactivity is it's always the question of you could do more. I could, in theory, in the real world, close these curtains, pick up this plant, slide this desk, move this backpack. Uh, I could do all of those things. I could unscrew the light bulbs from the lights. But the game doesn't let me do it. It just lets me pick up a few things and the things you can pick up are actually the things that aren't important. The things you can't pick up are like this backpack. It has to be there.
The boxes of tampons that you can find in the washrooms around the house, they weren't originally on the list of items that needed to be modeled, but when you're creating a bathroom at the level of fidelity, and when you're creating a bathroom for a teenage girl, no less, the idea of not having something like that is kind of jarring, or it was kind of jarring to me. Especially because when you're at that age, your period is something that kind of really defines your mood at any given day, and maybe what you wear and where you go. So, I just thought it was, something necessary for visual storytelling. especially of a girl going through what she's going through.
So this is probably my level of ignorance, but at first I thought these might be pads because it doesn't really say. But do they come in multi-packs? And I don't understand the number of 40 multi-pack. Let's see. 3 to 5 a day regular. Would that be like 3 or 4 days just on regular? And then maybe 4 days on super and maybe 2 days on plus. Is plus bigger than super? This is where I needed an adult woman to explain that in the comments. I mean, I know some stuff, in fact quite a lot, because one of my family members is actually a professor of medical things, and so they never shied away from letting me read their medical journals and have any knowledge I wanted, and I'm somewhat a unique person that I always want knowledge even in the face of potential grossness. But then often women don't want to discuss their menstrual cycles to a man regardless of his age, or a boy regardless of his age.
I mean, I've always, one of the most comforting things in the world to me is having somebody like brush my hair or stroke my head. Like my mom, when I wasn't feeling well, I could lie down in her lap and she would just brush my hair. It would always make me feel better. Like the weirdest way, I couldn't figure out why, but it just seemed like this friendly connection to somebody that it is, like she says, it is strangely intimate in a way that I'd not really, I guess, put into words until reading that part of the script. Where that's what I was thinking of, was like that connection, that sort of human touch, that it's something so friendly and so loving that you can do. And that whole idea of like touching someone's scalp being so intimate, it just made me think of that. Just those wonderful little moments where just a touch can be so much more.
I thought they were going to mention the dye in that thing. Storyline wise, none of these commentaries are really touching on any of that. I kind of want a second director's commentary so that they would explain the storyline a little bit more. This brush was probably a pre-boss Unity asset. When you start doing strands of hair or bristles of a brush, you can certainly run up the demand on a video card if they were going to try to animate every single bristle there. But that's usually how you make it look good too. That doesn't in particularly look that good. I assume this was well, this is an interesting question whether this was store-bought or not, because I bought it as a Unity asset or handmade by the modeler. There's no real reason why Lonnie should have red hair.
Lonnie brought her hair dye over today.
We'll go ahead and stop that.
I mean, I've always, one of the most comforting things in the world.
Yeah, I can't even stop it, can I?
Like brush my hair or stroke my head. Like my mom, when I wasn't feeling well, I could lie down in her lap and she would just brush my hair.
And you can't start the other one by picking up the item again.
The weirdest way, I couldn't figure out why.
So I'll just talk over this one.
This friendly connection to somebody that it is, like she says, it is strangely intimate.
There's no reason why Lonnie would have red hair going to basic camp, boot camp. That's not going to be allowed. In fact, it's probably would immediately get her in trouble in boot camp. They were, I would think, in fact, it doesn't really make sense that she was allowed to have wild hair, different colored hair, even in ROTC, because that wouldn't have been allowed, as far as I understand it. Let me know in the comments if somebody's in ROTC and they really can do wild colored hair. Maybe they've gotten looser, but I'm pretty sure boot camp wouldn't allow it. So the timeline here doesn't make any sense. The days before, I mean, really just like days before Sam runs off with Lonnie, she came over and they dyed her hair. And let's look at the journal. Let's see, dealing with roots, October 22nd, 1994. That's not anywhere close to the day that today is, which is June 7th. That's nowhere close. So we have to now reevaluate and say that what really happened was Sam dyed her hair red. Probably in an attempt to hide her appearance and run away better. And I just saw that journal entry because of its slight connection to it. Which means every single journal entry here may only have a slight connection to what actually happened. Because there was a lot of stuff that happened as Sam was leaving. She took a lot of things, I am assuming, but then she left a lot of things, and it seems like she did a lot of things. Here, the plant looks like somebody's peering in through like, curtains. That seems very intentional. There. I would have liked to see a director's commentary right there. I mean, that looks like a girl with either a ponytail or pigtails peering through the curtain. Let's check out the parents. Let's see what this is. Condom.
The life cycle of the condom.
That's not a real thing, Steve.
The life cycle of the condom.
All right.
By Carla Zamanja.
Is as follows. Initially, the condom was a separate plot point. It was an actual plot point. We gave it to Lonnie, and we had Sam find it in Lonnie's purse, and it made Sam worried about what the hell she was doing with it, etc. And that was sort of a wedge to drive them apart when that was the storyline, which it no longer is. And because we decided we hated it. But I had already made the condom asset, which I'm actually really proud of. I really like that condom. It's really good. Also, I think Nero is a really good brand for condoms. Anyway.
Yeah, it's a play on Trojan and everything, but
yeah,
it works.
But it's, it's the whole, like, notably decadent,
right,
it's like,
yeah.
Anyway, I like it. I'm proud of this thing.
And
so
the specular on it looks really nice.
It does look good. I don't know. So we had this, extra asset lying around, and we were like, we were all, oh, it's a shame that it's going to waste, but whatever. Sometimes things don't get used. And then we remembered the horror of digging around in your parents' drawers and finding their condoms and stuff, and being just utterly fucking horrified. And we decided we would give that to you, the player.
Alright. What does she say? There's nothing I don't hate right now. Now. I kind of wish they had voiced some of the things that are just on screen right now. Caitlin doesn't have a voice. So this is Mom's purse. But we found another one of Mom's purse later in the game. I would definitely hope that they explain the affair. I guess the assumption here would be that this side is the father's side. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I'm also a little surprised that the binding on these Bibles are both white. Almost all Bibles have gold on the edge. at least to my experience. Here's a little bit of a bug I found when I was playing around with this. It says turn TV off. TV was already off. It's backwards. So we're assuming this is the mother's drawer, and it seems pretty cleaned out of clothes. Did the question, I guess, would be that Sam stole her clothes. Let's hear.
One of my favorite things that came out during development was someone wrote an email mistakenly referring to Mittens, and Steve replied in the voice of Katie, saying, "It's just Mitten. She's only one cat, Mom."
Mitten, one cat. Ah. See if there's sneaking anything under the bed here. So we think in the story that Lonnie at least suggested that her and Sam do it in their parents' bed, which gross. That no mirrors. Is there any conversation here? So you definitely learn about a lot more than you wanted to know about your family just by going through the house. If this was the real world and you were in the house all empty by yourself, I think I would just except for the fact of being really spooked by being in a huge empty house I've never been in before, which is the case here. I think I would just find the TV room and turn on some music or something and try to avoid snooping.
Another board game. This one wasn't done by me though. This one was done by Carla. But I really like it because ghost figures on the back of the game are actually long deceased family members of mine. When I was home at Christmas, I was digging through my family's basement, sort of getting an idea of what a basement has in it, just sort of for set dressing purposes. And while I was down there, I found a big box that my family actually hadn't seen. We got a big box of things from my grandmother after she passed away. And inside this box was all these tin types, love letters and sort of emigration papers and notes from as far back as the 1850s when my family had emigrated from Scotland and Ireland. And I asked my family if it was possible that I include these in some sort of artistic project, and they said sure. They gave me their blessing, and I scanned them, and I didn't know if they were actually going to make it in the game, but then I saw that Carla had made this game, and really liked that they showed up as ghosts on the back of it. And it's sort of, I think, a nod for idle thumbs who really feel quite passionately about ghosts, as it turns out. Surprise!
So what's weird about this is if you start going diagonally with the right stick, you can just spin this thing all around. But I'm glad if you let go of the left trigger and put it back, it orients it properly. Like if I have this all the way backwards, it just goes back to the way it was. So yeah, ghost game. And this book is watercolor technique for florals and still lifes. I didn't find that before. I didn't find the condom before. I didn't find the painting book. Missing shoes. Interesting. I did not notice that too. There are no shoes anywhere in this game.
So there's a lot less density in the house than there would be in a real house. Like if you look around your house, there's just junk piled everywhere. Probably. Like
True.
I think it's most house.
Oh, you're right.
But so you know, our strategy was you either fully invest in something and put like a plausible representation of this aspect of a room in, or you just don't put it in at all. and the player will fill in the gaps between like, oh, these are all the things that represent the kind of room I'm supposed to be in, and it doesn't jump out at me that there's no toilet plungers in the bathroom or whatever. But the biggest instance of this that I think actually totally worked, because no one has ever called it out, is, surprise, think about it, there are no shoes in this house. Ta-da!
Where's your brain now?
and I don't think anybody's noticed it, and I think it's because if we had put one pair of shoes or two pairs of shoes, people would have said, where are all the rest of the shoes?
Right.
But really, to have a plausible house, Mom would have to have 10 pairs of shoes and her work boots, and Dad would need to have some tennis shoes and some work shoes, and so on and so forth. So we just said, there aren't going to be any shoes, and we hope nobody notices.
I think it's the right move, but I think they probably could have improved it better if they had written shoes on one of these boxes. If it had just been written there, then you have your explanation right there for anybody that would be looking for it. I mean, I can certainly explain away quite a bit of this game by the fact that they just moved into this house. Although, even if they took all the boxes away, there's definitely some arguments could have been made. So they brought the paintings with them, I suppose. So the mother probably picks all the paintings for all the rooms.
Almost none of the events, the little events in the game, are scripted as far as like triggering when you do something specific. So all of the thunder and lightning and the creaky noises in the house, they're all just randomized on timers. The only like scripted thing is in the secret passageway. When you look at the crucifix, there's scripting that detects that you did that, and then it causes the light to pop.
Crucifix?
Which is yeah, my one indulgence of like messing with the player. But we've had a lot of people play the game and say, you know, oh, the way you scripted it so that right when I walked into the TV room there was that big thunder and lightning strike, like that was really spooky, or you know, I walked through that one door and then you played that sound behind me, and it's like it's awesome that the combination of all the different kind of like significant actions you can do in the game, right, like crossing into a new room or opening a door or this, that, or the other thing, and the randomization of stuff can make it seem like the random elements have extra significance to them, but in fact it's like you just got lucky, basically. Yeah,
it's total apophenia, because like, yeah, it's just because there's enough random things going on, and you can do enough things that eventually some of them are going to line up, yeah, which is, you know, cool.
Personally, I think some more scripting could have made this game more spooky. I am still kind of at this point, though, where I don't know why this game is spooky. That is the main thing. Like, see, I just opened that and then the lightning happened. Composition book. So somewhere around here is the thing that shows the secret panels. This is interesting. Katie, Mom and Dad were gonna make up the guest room for you to stay in over the summer, but you came home on such short notice they weren't around to do it. You can use my room if you want. I won't be needed. Interesting how the note is placed under the door, like she was actually here in the room the whole time. This is so spooky too. It's just like, this is my dark room, don't enter if the red lights are on. And she assumedly put the lights on to slow down the parents recognizing that she was gone. We have had no director's commentary about the story at all. I need one, don't I? I want one that just explains the whole story to me.
I really enjoyed playing Gone Home. I have to say it was pretty exciting to find the Heavens to Betsy tape, you know, because that was really, I mean, those songs really did come out on a cassette tape at the time, and that really was how people discovered the music, was getting a cassette tape passed around. So getting to put it in the actual tape player and play it and listen to our song, it definitely gave me chills. I mean, it was like, wow, you know, how exciting for a young person today to get that moment of discovery, and to listen to our music. I mean, I think it's great.
It's a little creepy. You get a little bit of a light bleed through there. Ah, so here's the map that starts us with the starts us down the path to the secret rooms. So without finding that one piece, you are in trouble. So wait a minute. She took her costume of the first mate, or she left both costumes and there was only one costume, and Lonnie was gonna make the other one. I don't know. It's kind of a shame you can't put the sewing machine back down. And I don't believe I see an outlet anywhere here. So definitely an electric sewing machine. It would need a foot pump if it was a really old-fashioned. He failed to put a plug in it, or maybe it's just not plugged up. I can't walk around to see. But yeah, to get back to the story, I understand most of what happened. I have the general understanding of the story. This is, but I'd like somebody to give me their interpretation of it, the creator, and just, I know there will be a few points that will be different or could be clarified. This rug is the right length for this room, and yes, you don't want to cover up your air vents, which this is a very North America, well, North United States style of air conditioning, to put the vents in the floor. Newer construction, and in the South it's always to the top, but if you're further north, more often than not you're heating a room, so you want the heat to rise, and in the South you're cooling a room, so you want to potentially let the cool air fall down and let the hot air leak through the ceiling and leak through the vents themselves and replace it. All of thermodynamics is about hot air pushing its way through. Cold air doesn't fall. Hot air rises and pushes its way through cold air. At least that's my understanding of it. I could be totally wrong. I could be totally wrong about a lot of things, actually. So, that was Mom and Dad's room. And we need to find the secret passage. It was here. And I could have opened it, I think, or before then. And then we have several other things that we need to go find. When you look at the map here, if this was the entire house, except for the wing on the right, and there were no secret passages, I think you could have done the whole game without the secret passages. I think it's just more of their red herrings like that something is going to happen, that this is part of something spooky is going to occur, that they decide to do this. So there's one of them. We don't need to look at it because that would just trigger a new voice, a new voice recording, voice log, which we don't really need to listen to. Here we go.
This is where you find the first half of Sam's locker, or I guess it's actually the second half of Sam's locker combo as far as what the piece of paper is. But at first, there were the locker combination sheet was torn into 3 pieces. So you had 1 digit on each of them, and it was actually right before we sent out our IGF build to the judges. It was the night before, and Carla came down to the basement, and she was like, at 3 o'clock in the morning last night, I woke up in bed just being like, oh, we can't have it in 3 pieces, that's way too gamey. Well, that's bad, we have to fix that. And you were absolutely right. And you've had a couple of those being woken up by us making a bad decision kind of moments over the course of development, and they were always important changes that needed to be made.
So one thing I've realized here in this private do not read story, it was written in 9th grade in 1992. That means this story where the first mate turns into a girl happened 2 years before she met Lonnie. So she was already on that path. I mean, well, she was already on the path and beginning to accept herself that she was a lesbian even before she met Lonnie. So it's not really a story that Lonnie just stole her heart and she realized immediately then. Let's see. Ouija board and the responses to the Ouija board. And now we can open the locker. And what do we find in the locker? Like another map? What's the combination? 051. And the combination here has like no connection to anything. It's just the combination that came with the lock. And it's locker 119, which maybe that means something, maybe it doesn't.
Yeah, I ended up being pretty happy with this. This is the only picture of Lonnie that we had for a really long time, and I was really glad to actually come up with something that we liked, since this kind of thing is really hard.
Oops.
Lonnie came.
Yeah, I ended up being pretty happy with this. This is the only picture of Lonnie that we had for a really long time, and I was really glad to actually come up with something that we liked, since this kind of thing is really hard, especially when it is such a major character. The other thing is Lonnie has a cross necklace. She also has some Catholicism in her family.
Yeah, and I think that's something that I don't think that particular detail has been called out by anybody. People notice like the Bibles and whatnot, but yeah, I intended for Lonnie, like, I thought it would be interesting if she came from a more conservative family than Sam's, in that she actually wears a cross necklace and carries some, Catholicism with her, and her dad was an army guy, and, her background is even in some ways maybe kind of more stifling than Sam's, and that's probably why she's a more like openly rebellious person on the outside.
Okay, so that gets us the key to the basement. So why is Sam particularly locking the basement? Becomes the question. Maybe no real reason as far as a connection to her running away. It may just be that the basement was her and Lonnie's some of her special places where they hid, but they apparently ran through this whole mansion and had a great time. And I imagine if I was a kid in a mansion this big with secret panels and stuff, after a few weeks of getting used to it and not being spooked out by it, I would just love to run around and hide in places. The game could have been done by now, though I do want to say that. We've seen what would have been a huge house by most people's standards. Most houses would have, you're talking, let's see, at least 3 bathrooms and 3 bedrooms. And most houses don't have sewing rooms and sitting rooms and offices and TV rooms and music rooms. I mean, again, I have to point out that if you took this same house and just played Clue in it, Clue or Cluedo for people who know it by the international name, just have a Mr. Body show up in one room and then have all the other guests randomly be placed as like interactive characters you can speak to. You could play Clue just walking around, investigating, asking questions. And it would be a pretty fun environment, and I don't think Hasbro has, who would of course sue you out of existence if you tried to do that, unless you could hide it very well. I don't think they've ever tried to make a 3D representation. I think that probably would lean too mature for the general audience they're after for Hasbro games. Let's hear about ambient music before we wrap up.
Composing the ambient exploration tracks definitely ended up being the weirdest part of creating music for Gone Home. The audio diaries tended to take precedence since they had such clear criteria for completion, so the ambient tracks were the last things I did. I spent so long immersed in the logs, which were very specifically timed, that to suddenly shift gears to creating these slow, standalone 5-minute pieces was surprisingly difficult. I remember giving Steve a first stab at the ambient track for part 2 of the game, and I didn't hear anything back about it. When I eventually asked if he had any feedback, he said something like, "Oh yeah, it's great, I just slowed it down by 50% and it totally works," which cracked me up, because I definitely didn't have that in mind. But that's one of the great things about collaborative work, so I just went with it. I ended up doing a number of further revisions where I'd alter elements of the original version specifically to affect how the 50% slowed version would sound. It was definitely a new experience for me, writing bits of music and trying to imagine how they would sound after it's been considerably distorted. It got weirder though. The ambient track for part 1 ended up being a backwards version of the slowed down part 2 track. And again, there were elements that sounded good at 50% slow forwards, but not at 50% slow backwards.
What
so
craziness.
again, I went back to the original track and started altering elements so they would sound better at half speed in reverse. I don't know if that's a thing ambient composers end up getting used to, but for me it definitely felt like going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, that sounds insane. That sounds just completely insane. I'm trying to figure out what this valve is for. This is like a drain. Why would you close off a drain? You would never close a valve on a drain. But it has to be a drain. And generally you wouldn't want to do S-curves like that either, but that probably would be fine. But then it doesn't make any sense. This S-curves upward. So literally, there's no way you could have, any water in this or other liquids could not drain to anything. It doesn't go downward at any point. It goes uphill here. It goes uphill here. Whoever made this game obviously doesn't understand plumbing. Uphill here. what would happen is there would always be pooling water in here, and it would get too heavy and overflow, pull itself apart at the seams right there, pull it apart at the seams right there, uh, pull itself apart at the seams right there, and just leak liquid all into this finished basement. What bad plumbing. Well, with that plumbing advice, and that's, I've done architectural, now I'm talking about plumbing, and I've also done decorative, so I just love to apparently look at houses. Anywho, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment if you want to, and watch every second of my videos. All that helps me out. If you want to support me, you can click on my name, Rydo. On the right will be a blue button that says support this channel. Click it, make a donation. And if you'd be so kind, please follow and friend me on all those social media sites. There's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.